YouTube, my name is Sean Connors and welcome back to the Outsiders channel. Today we're going to look at the clerics in the Pathfinder core book and examine one spell from each level, the same as I've recently done for wizards. Naturally I won't be duplicating any spells from that book, from that list, they're still applicable, and I'll try not to use any healing spells and show some options that are available for clerics. Let's start with an absolute little gem at 0 level, Guidance, often overlooked. The spell itself effectively gives a +1 competence bonus to a single attack roll, saving throw or skill check, and you can do this unlimited times per day. It's on page 292 of the Pathfinder core book. How many times has 1 point made a difference? How useful can this be, particularly in the early levels? But then at any level, when you're just about to attack or just before, beautiful spell, worth your consideration. I present you Guidance. Now let's turn our attention to a first level gem, Command. Again, I love this spell. There are so many ways to utilise it. The first thing you must know, of course, is that Command, there are several options available to you. My favourite one is Approach. And if you time this well, and you pick the right opponent at the right moment, he's got to come towards you during that round as quickly and directly as possible. The creature can do nothing else but move during its turn, and it provokes attack of opportunity for any movement as normal. So imagine where your position is. If you get it to move past your friends, that creature could face 1, 2 or more attacks of opportunity from your comrades. This spell can be fantastic. Of course, it focuses on the enemy's weaker save generally, which is will saves, and it has a great aversion, just something to bear in mind. Second level spell choice is Calm Emotions on page 252 of the Pathfinder core book. This spell has a fantastic range, 100 foot plus 10 foot per level, and it's all creatures in a 20 foot radius spread. The normal use of the spell is twofold. It can be used against raging creatures, so that can interfere with Barbarian's Rage, but the most important use of it is Confusion. Confusion is a very devastating spell against you as a party, so having the ability to suppress it is formidable, and one must never leave home without some form of Calm Emotions, even if it's in scroll form. I'd like to present to you Calm Emotions, one spell that's often overlooked. The third level spell I'd like to present you is Bestow Curse, which can be found on page 246 of the Pathfinder core book. This little spell is a little gem. It's again often overlooked, has several uses to it. The one that I'd like you to focus on for the purpose of this is the fact that the target, if it fails its saving throw, can only act normally 50% of the time, and the rest it can take no action. So it either is effective or isn't effective. And again, this is a permanent spell, which is a will save. Now, because it requires a touch to affect the enemy, you might think that puts the cleric in danger. And in a way, that may be true. But the cleric is one of those unique characters that can get up quite close, has a good armor class, and generally can take care of itself. But Bestow Curse, if delivered well, literally is a save or suck. It is a fantastic spell and very formidable in the right circumstances. One to consider. Found on page 287 in the Pathfinder core book is a wonderful spell, Freedom of Movement. My players regard this spell as the absolute get out of jail free card spell. When you apply this spell to yourself or creature touched, they are immune to things like grapple checks, slow, paralysis, solid fog, web spells, that sort of thing. Even Ivan's Black Tentacles would not be able to grapple them here. So most enemy, at even the earliest levels, one of their best abilities is often the ability to grapple. With that negated, it comes down to their ability to attack. This spell is formidable. Really, I've seen this spell overlooked many times by players, and it's an absolute crying shame. You should at least have it on scroll as a cleric, and you will find many uses of it. So I present to you Freedom of Movement, my 4th level choice. On page 363 of the Pathfinder core book, you'll find True Seeing. This is another spell that no cleric should leave home without. The ability to see all things as they actually are. You can see through normal magical darkness, notice secret doors hidden by magic, see the exact location of creatures or objects under blur or displacement effects. This is you or the creature touched. This can be invaluable for fighters who are facing invisible creatures or illusions, because you can see straight through them for their true form. Polymorph creatures, change things or transmuted things. Further, the subject can focus its vision to see into the ethereal plane, but not into extra-dimensional spaces. There are so many uses for this spell. It's a bit like Detect Magic, but for high level, and with so many other uses to it, and all the effects you see are instant. What's not to like about that? Another spell my players love to use is on page 295 of the Pathfinder core book, Hero's Feast. This is always a great one to use just before the players are about to commit to a main task at hand, assuming, of course, you have the time to do it. Hero's Feast takes 1 hour to consume, but once you do, all the people that consume the feast immediately are cured of any sickness, poison effects, diseases, etc. But the key part of the spell is that they gain 1d8 plus 1 point per 2 caster levels temporary hit points after imbuing the nectar-like beverage that is the feast. This ambrosial food grants each creature that partakes a +1 morale bonus on attack rolls, will saves, and a +4 morale bonus on saving throws against poison and fear, and lasts for 12 hours. Anything that improves your hit points, your saving throws, and makes it better for you to attack, and no matter what level, is a fantastic spell to have. And this is a spell again that can be on a scroll and used before you commit to a main task. A fantastic spell and lasts for 12 hours. The next two spell choices used together can be used with devastating effect. Let's take a look at the first one on page 337, Greater Scrying. A fantastic spell that allows you basically to functions the same as scrying, so you're scrying an area with the same bonuses or negatives depending on what you know. But let's focus on why this is such a great spell, because you can cast through this scrying other spells, things like detect chaos, evil, good, law, detect magic. You can send a message, you can read magic, and you can use tongues, so you can actually see an area and hear what's actually being said. This is fantastic, and of course, forewarned is forearmed, and you'd be ready to set up the exact attack that you want to deliver to the enemy. Fantastic spell. Discern Location is the second part of the little conundrum we've just spoke about. It's the 8th level choice. It can be found on page 270. What makes this spell fantastic is that it is one of the most powerful spells for locating creatures or objects. Nothing short of a mind blank spell or the direct intervention of a deity keeps you from learning the exact location of a single individual or object. Discern Location circumvents normal means of protection from scrying or location. The spell reveals the name of the creature or object's location. Place name, business name, building name, or the like, community, county, political division, country, continent, and the plane of existence where the target lies. To find a creature with the spell, you must have seen the creature or have at least some item that belonged to it. To find an object, you must have at least touched it once. However, what a formidable spell. Used well, and in conjunction with the spell previously mentioned in terms of greater scrying, you've got a method to locate and find exactly what you're looking for, and then of course launch the attack exactly where you need to place it. Devastating spell. The 9th level spell I choose for the clerics is found on page 314 of the Pathfinder core book. Miracle. You really have become semi-divine at this point. This is the ability to ask directly your deity for a request on your behalf, and he will intercede. There are two forms of it, a lesser one and a major one. The lesser one will duplicate different spell effects, but the one I want to focus on here is the more expensive one. For 25,000 gold pieces worth of diamond dust, or probably the equivalent in one of my games, you have the option to do one of the following three things. Swing the tide of battle in your favour by raising fallen allies to continue fighting. Imagine that on a battlefield. Moving you and your allies with all your gear from one plane of existence through any plane of barriers with no chance of error, or protecting a city from an earthquake, volcanic eruption, flood, or other major natural disaster. In any event, a request that is outlined with the deity's nature, of course, is refused. But I would expect that you will understand fully what you're about to do and why you're about to do it. What a phenomenal spell that literally can change the course of a campaign in one swing. So I present to you Miracle for your perusal. This is a little bonus piece I'd like to do at this point. I was challenged after the wizard list that some of the spells would be too easy to save. But I think obviously just putting a list together doesn't really give me an opportunity to explain the reasons why these things are a lot harder than they first appear. So for the purpose of this, we're going to call this power play, and I'm just going to explain a couple of tactics and tips that certain players will use, experienced players will use, to get the maximum effect from a particular spell. Let's assume you're using point buy, and let's, for today's example, just use the cleric. Of course, if it was a wizard, we'd use intelligence. Of course, the cleric will be using wisdom. Let's assume he's put a maximum stat in wisdom at first level, and he's got a 20. That means that any spell, first level spell that he would be casting, would obviously have a save of 10 plus 1 is 11 for the level, plus 5 for the stat, which makes a difficulty check of 16 for a first level spell. A third level spell, of course, will have a difficulty check of 18. Now, of course, if he's got an idea of something he wants to do later, he might put a spell focus in. So let's take Greater Command as an example. Now, Greater Command is an enchantment spell. Let's assume by this stage, when he's got Greater Command, that he's got both spell focuses, spell focus enchantment and greater spell focus enchantment. Suddenly, that spell, which for the cleric is a 5th level spell, which means that at that level as well, he may well have something like 22 wisdom or even higher. So now suddenly he's got 10 plus 6 for his stat, plus the spell level, which makes 21, plus 2 points to increase the difficulty because of the spell focus. So suddenly now, Greater Command is a will save 23. Now, if you consider the level that you would get Greater Command at, there are a lot of creatures that do not still, at those levels, have much more than a few points in wisdom. So you're almost giving yourself a fantastic chance to take 1 or 2 people out and move them around the battlefield exactly how you want at just the right moment. So you can see with forethought and forward thinking how devastating spells can be. And that is why I give you this as a little power play, a little extra at the end, just for your consideration and approval. Anyway, thanks very much for your time. I've been Sean Connors. This has been Outsiders. Take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Bye-bye.